Everybody makes mistakes, and that includes car companies. But if a car company makes a mistake, it can cost millions of dollars and sometimes even people's lives. This list includes exploding tires, gas-loving spiders, and going way too fast in reverse. How did this stuff happen? How did they fix it? This is
D-List. Epic engineering fail.
The biggest shocker about this one is that they did it on purpose. Mercedes, good old reliable 250,000 miles before it needs an oil change. Mercedes once tried to make biodegradable wiring a thing. Biodegradable wiring. It all started in a quaint time called the 1990s when Germany passed a law requiring a certain percentage of all cars being produced to be biodegradable. Good. That's a good rule. So that when you junked it in the future, those parts would break down and return to the earth from whence they came. Schming, schmang, schmoom. We're all stardust. We're all made out of carbon. I think it's a pretty good idea. But Mercedes decided that instead of doing something normal, like making biodegradable seat covers or like headliners or something, the part they replaced with an eco alternative was the rubber that covers all of the wires. Well, what happened next? I think you can probably guess. Over time, the wires became exposed to the elements and they degraded, causing a nest of short-circuiting copper and spicy electricity jumping all over the place. Like in Star Wars when he's just,
"Give me back my son!"
And what's even worse is that Mercedes has never issued a safety recall, even though a wiring harness with no insulation is incredibly dangerous. The rumor is that so many cars would have to be recalled that they would never recover from this financially.
This is a sad fail.
Between 2005 and 2010, Toyota had to recall over 9 million cars in the US due to floor mats. Toyota fitted removable floor mats to practically all of its cars in this period in an effort to make them easy to take out and clean. Floor mats are great. I have some floor mats. What they didn't expect was that the floor mats would move around on the floor as you stepped on them and eventually slide up over the accelerator, forcing the car to accelerate rapidly. Like your car started driving as fast as it could and lots of people couldn't stop. This resulted in thousands of crashes and somewhere between 59 and 89 deaths. So keep your floor mats tight. And don't throw empty soda bottles underneath your seat. I'm speaking from experience here. They get caught behind your brakes. My girlfriend does it all the time. It really worries me.
Yet another epic fail.
Y'all know about the G-Wagon. Kim Kardashian owns gosh darn 9 of them. Big old refrigerator truck. I don't mind them. I think they're pretty cool. Originally, they were only used by the military and German farmers, and they were more like a slow truck in terms of performance. But now they're fast. Real fast. They got a handmade AMG twin turbo 621 hertz per. It'll do 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, which is crazy because it is classified as a tiny house. Despite having 4-wheel drive and all the modern day Mercedes technology to help keep them on the road, their tall stance and relatively narrow wheelbase mean that they're pretty sketchy feeling when you're going fast in them. But everything is scarier in reverse. All right. You ever ridden Superman Escape from Krypton at Six Flags Magic Mountain? It goes forwards and it's scary. And then at the end, it goes backwards and it's way scarier. Well, in 2016, 20 G65 AMGs sold in North America had to be recalled because someone had a few too many Schneider Weisse Aventinus Eisenbachs and forgot to program an electrical speed limiter for the reverse gear. Now, without this little tiny piece of software limiting the reverse speed, the car could achieve speeds in an excess of 60 miles per hour going backwards in a tiny house. Now, I know what you're saying. James dog, 60 miles per in reverse ski sounds like a blast. But here's the thing, guys. In a big old truck brick like the G-Wagon, it's supposed to be limited to 15 miles per hour in reverse because these big baby boys love to Nestle flips. It's a dumb one, I know, because the fix was just to alter a bit of code in the ECU, but still, how did nobody check that? Must have been done on a Friday, you know what I mean?
Got Phil?
The AZTEK is so gross, it's awesome. It's like eating your own boogers. Back when it came out in the early 2000s, it was basically one of the first crossovers ever. It came with all-wheel drive. It sat high on the road and had room for lots of people inside. It was ahead of its time. You could even get one with a tent. A tent! It had a tailgate with cup holders in it. It had a removable cooler in the center console. And did I mention that it had a tent? People criticized it for its looks, but the simple fact is that 20 years after its creation, we're all over here driving crossovers. So Pontiac got it right. Rest in peace, Pontiac. Rest in peace to the AZTEK. I like to think that Pontiac is up there with Lil Peep and Tupac eating barbecue ribs with Pope John Paul II on the tailgate of his AZTEK. Yeah, Pope John Paul II drives an AZTEK in heaven. But for all of its subtle future-proofing, the AZTEK had a really, really, really annoying Achilles heel. The AC drain plug. It sat right above the car's main ECU, and in the summer, the condensation from the AC would drain right onto the computer, causing a short and fry the car's brain. Tons of people reported the issue, but GM never officially acknowledged it. I'm starting to see a pattern with these big old guys, which sucks. It's like Lil Pump, future classic with a fried brain.
Right in the fails.
If you've ever been a person in the past, you might remember this one. Firestone and Fjord, two of America's greatest sons, literal best friends, locked in a court battle over exploding tires. This whole story began when people started crashing in Ford's brand new SUV, the Explorer. The first reports back from the police who inspected the crash sites were that the tires appeared to have delaminated with the entire tire tread surface coming away from the tire core. Firestone and Fjord had been working together since the days of the Model T. That is back in Great Grandpa's times. And both companies were absolutely and rightfully so horrified by the findings. Firestone instantly recalled 6.5 million Wilderness radial tires, which were all put on to Explorers. However, even after this recall, the crashes continued. Now, eventually, Firestone came out and said that the problem wasn't their tire, but the Explorer itself, which Firestone said was unsafe and would roll over in a crash regardless of what tire it was on. The SUV was, at the time, a new and highly profitable market for Ford, so they were quick to deny those allegations, and they broke up with Firestone in a cowardly attempt to keep on selling their SUV, bringing a 100-year relationship to a bitter end.
What are you thinking?
And another Ford one. This one is also definitely their fault. Between 1988 and 1993, Ford built 7.9 million cars and trucks with an ignition switch that, due to its location next to the engine, would overheat and fail. And how would you know that your Ford ignition switch had overheated and failed? Well, it was easy. Your Ford would stall, and then you would lose control of the steering and the braking. That's two of the most important things about driving. You got steering, you got braking, a hot snack, some good tunes. And if you were really unlucky, the ignition would set itself on fire and your entire car would burn to the ground. And allegedly, Ford was aware of the problem during development, but instead of moving the module to a cooler location, as their engineers had suggested, Ford chose to just beef up the module to make it last just long enough to exceed the warranty period, forcing owners to bear the cost of replacement when their car burns to the ground. It's weird, guys. It's almost like these big companies don't even care about people. The module had been installed in over 22 million Ford cars and trucks, but by the time the government mandated recall was issued, only about 1/3 of them remained on the road.
Yeah, I'd say this is an epic fail.
This one is freaking good, terrifying. The Mazda 6 had a problem, an 8-legged problem. And no, I'm not talking about 4 people. I'm not even talking about 2 wolves. I'm talking about a spider. A certain species of spider known as the yellow sac spider is attracted to hydrocarbons such as gasoline. Aren't we all? Problem is, on 2009 and 2015 Mazda 6s, there was a way for the tiny spiders drawn by the smell of gas to climb into the fuel system, where they would spin their webs, which would eventually clog everything up and get all gunky. And these 8-legged freaks, not to be confused with the 2002 David Arquette classic 8-legged freaks, crawled their way in through a small auxiliary hose meant to allow excess gas fumes to leave the fuel system and keep the pressure within the system, all normal. Remember normal? Before I knew that gas spiders existed. Once the spiders get in and spin their webs, the gases can't escape like they need to, and the pressure builds up in the system. Mazda became aware of the problem after 13 owners in the US actually had their gas tanks crack and leak fuel due to buildup of pressure. And eventually, they had to release a software patch that regulated the fuel system pressure even if the spiders did start living inside of your Mazda. They couldn't even get rid of the spiders, okay? They just learned how to coexist. I've heard of bug fixes, but this is ridiculous.
Yet another epic fail.
Toyotas live forever. Well, most Toyotas live forever. Jeremiah made a video about it. I'll throw to it at the end of this video. From 1994 all the way to 2004, first-gen Tacomas suffered from frame rusting due to their box frames trapping water inside. Now, this forced the company to recall 800,000 trucks. But for the next generation of Tacos, Toyota decided they wanted to outdo themselves. So, from 2005 to 2011, Tacomas suffered from a different, even worse rust problem. 690,000 Tacomas were recalled because the rear leaf springs would rust and rot, causing them to snap, and in some very unfortunate cases, puncture the brake lines and even the gas tank. The problem was the cheap steel being used to make the leaf springs rusted very easily. Toyota initially offered steel clips which went around the rotting leaf springs that held them together, but understandably, owners weren't happy with this fix, and so a full recall was ordered. Guys, we love the Tacoma. It's one of the best looking trucks ever, the first gen and the second gen. But if you're gonna buy one, make sure these problems are taken care of, and maybe don't buy one that's ever been in a snowy environment or on the coast or near any sort of rain or condensation, or if the owner had a pool or ever cried on their tailgate after losing a football game.
Epic fail.
In at number 1 is an engineering fail, which makes me so mad. The RX-7, this beautiful, vascular, yet supple little beast has dirty fuel. Well, that's no problem, James. I'm nifty with a set of spanners. I'll just pop the bonnet and replace the filter. Go ahead. I'll wait. Oh, what's that? You can't find the fuel filter? It's because it's not in there, Jimmy. That's right, where a good designer would make sure that all the important things you would need to access in order to maintain your lovely new rotary-powered sports car were under the hood or in other easy-to-reach areas. The designers of the third-gen RX-7, they didn't do that. Instead, they put the fuel filter here, right at the back of the car, between the differential, the subframe, and the sway bar. That means you have to literally disassemble the rear suspension and drop the entire subframe to change your fuel filter, a job that usually takes 10 minutes. And it should be done roughly every 20,000 miles, but with the RX-7, it was such a huge, and if you couldn't do it yourself, expensive job that people just didn't do it. And this led to the filter getting dirtier and dirtier, and eventually that dirt found its way into the engine, which caused a lack of power and eventually breakdowns. Look, I get it. Designing a car ain't easy. I've done it before. It's hard. But come on, design guys. Let's all try to be better, huh? No more rusty frames, bad wiring, cars that are secretly full of spiders. That last one is very important. And if you're wondering why I didn't put the Pinto on this list, it's because I'm sick of talking about it. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss anything. We make a video like pretty much every day. You want to learn more about the Tacoma and that box frame issue? Check out this episode of Bumper to Bumper, hosted by my good friend Jeremiah. He's great. You'll love him. Follow Donut on Instagram at Donut Media. Follow me at James Pumphrey. I love you.